So thank you for joining my presentation and welcome. So today I want to tell you about securing Sitecore AI with a fine-grained authorization. So today I want to talk to you about something that I think is very important, maybe even more important than many of us can realize right now. We will talk about how to keep your Sitecore AI secure. How do you control what our AI agents can access, can execute, and so on. And not just in theory, of course, we have a couple of demos, live coding, real tools, and all of this I will show you. I will show you also some new approach that called relationship-based access control, and how you can use it in your Sitecore AI world. And I promise you will leave with something practical. Where is my clicker? And before we start, let me introduce myself. Guys, sorry, can I have a clicker? Yeah. So my name is Sergey Baranov. I'm a Sitecore solution architect at Breemit with a lot of years of experience in Sitecore development. I'm 5 times Sitecore technology MVP and certified Sitecore developer. Also, I'm in machine learning and AI engineer. So for last about 6-7 years, I have been working for a government company. And if everyone has ever worked for a government, you know firsthand, guys, how complicated things are when it comes to security. Here you can see our today's plan. First, we have a small introduction into AI and security. I tell you a short story. I want you to feel the problem before we solve it. Next, I will show you my chatbot demo and how existing Sitecore access control works nowadays. Then I show you some real scenarios where existing role-based access controls that we have in Sitecore fails and breaks, especially when we add multiple AI agents in our solutions or scaling it. Then you'll have a little bit of theory about Google Zanzibar and relationship-based access control. And of course, I will show you in demo how everything works together in Sitecore AI. And in the end of my presentation, I would be glad to answer your questions. And yeah, let's start with the story. So imagine it's 10 p.m. a night before your big product launch. And your AI agent is doing its job, such as generating some press release variations for your campaign. And it does its job perfectly. But then it sends a draft copy to your external marketing agency. And the draft contains your unreleased roadmaps, your internal pricing, some legal disclaimers that mark confidential. And here's the scary part, how it's happened. So AI was not hacked. It's not, nobody broke it. What happens? Yeah, it simply did exactly what we told it to do. But the problem is that we never told it what AI agents was not able to do. And here you can see a quote of one of the famous AI researcher, Elisa Rutkowski, and that says that people conclude too early that they understood AI. And that's true. So today, in our Sitecore project, we have a lot of AI, starting from content generation, translation, reviewing, and ending with some great features that we can do in Sitecore Marketplace, where by using Sitecore Marketplace SDK, we can implement everything, literally everything what we want. And yeah, these AI agents, of course, are very helpful. They help us with our routine tasks. They highly speed up all of the processes. But humans, like our content editors, marketers, always have strictly defined access controls by using Sitecore roles, uh, by properly configured permissions in Sitecore security editor. But what we have for AI agents? Nothing. So LLM are often black boxes for people who use it. But your access control absolutely should not be. And OWASP thinks that is very serious. OWASP is a open web application security project, I hope you know. In May 2025, they published their latest top 10 risks for LLM applications. And as you can see, 3 of these top 10 risks are directly related to authorization. The first one is a sensitive information disclosure. Exactly the horror story that I told you. AI returns some content that users should not allow to see. On the right side, we have excessive agency. That means that our AI agents are over-permitted nowadays. They can access tools, read some documents that are not allowed to do. And the last one is a vector and embedding weakness. So vector databases don't have any access controls because they're just not designed for this. And any queries to your vector databases return any results. And these vulnerabilities are real and they're happening now. It's just a matter of time when you face it. But all of them can be easily solved by proper authorization. And that is what we are building today. So some more statistics for 2024 because it was the latest paper. So almost half of companies have experienced it with negative consequences from using AI systems. The cost of data breach in 2024 was about $5 million. But investments in enterprise AI applications were increased significantly in the last couple of years. So how large language models and AI agents work with our data, with our content? There are two most commonly used options, RAC and content stacking. I hope all of you know what is RAC. You just get your Sitecore content like page, documents, media, and put it into the vector database. When user asks some question, AI search into the vector database, find most relevant content, and send it to large language model. And LLMs use this content to generate an answer. So the second approach is a content stuffing. So this method involves directly inserting content of your document into the context window of LLM. It's about the same as RAC, but without any search. So the second concept, context stuffing, is commonly used in stuff like LLMs TXT when you have pre-generated markdown pages for your website. And for example, if you detect that request to your page comes from the LLM or AI agent, you can easily substitute rendering of your HTML with a lot of JavaScript with a plain text format. So both concepts are very powerful, but both of them have the same security problem. So AI agent retrieves content from some of your storage. But which content? By default, everything it was given. AI agents have no any concept of as this user is not allowed to read this document. And if you do not add any proper authorization, then every single user can get access to everything that your LLM or AI agents have access to. And this is a gap that we are filling today. So, and let me show you what we have nowadays inside Core with a role-based access control. I have a small chatbot demo. We have a chatbot inside Core CMS. This chatbot has access to all of our content inside CMS, like a page, documents, media, and so on. When user open the chatbot, ask a question, he receives an answer based on our Sitecore content. I have added authorization layer here by using existing Sitecore security model. So we can control now what items AI can get from the vector store depending on who asks this question. And this works, and let me show it in live. So here you can see, so just imagine it's some our internal websites that we use for some company. I have some fake content here. For example, we have a page with a content like Acme brand was nominated as the best company of 2025. The same way, I have a PDF document here. I uploaded my CV as an example of confidential information. And let's see what we have without authorization. So let's log in with some user, for example, Sergey. We open our chatbot and ask this question. For example, what company was the best AI company 2025? And as you can see, it's returned an answer with this fake content that we have about Acme brand and also links to the page where we can read our internal content. So the same way, I can ask what is Sergey Baranov current position in Bermud, and it should take answer from the CVs that I have previously uploaded. And yeah, as you can see, it's found this document, read it, and give me an answer. So let's play with permissions. So first of all, let's deny permission for this user to the page item. So we can find my user Sergey here and just deny read access and save. The same way, we can protect of reading documents, for example, for files folder. Just to show you that we don't need to configure it on every single item, we can just do it how we do it always in Sitecore. Yes, as you can see, we do not have any permissions on the document itself. So let's get back to our chatbot. Let's clear the context and ask exactly the same questions. Like which company was the best company in 2025? And as you can see, it couldn't find any information because it's not accessible for this. And the same way, we can ask a question about Sergey Baranov current position, doing it, and also it couldn't find anything. So could we switch back to the presentation? Yeah. So maybe you're interested in how it works. Yeah, it's very simple. So in this is demo inside Correct Speed, where we have content search, and we can use it enable security check option, where we can easily extract all of the items related of the permissions of the context user. What we did here, we just get a list of all items that user have access to, and we use it list of item IDs as a filter for our database. You can use it in two ways, like a pre-filter or a post-filter. And physically, chatbots see only authorized content. So exactly the same way, you can create any fake user, for example, to mimic AI agent. And you can use user switcher to retrieve a content related to the sum of your user that out of the context. For example, that makes sense if you have one single knowledge base for your AI agents, but you have 5, 7 AI agents that should have different permissions for your knowledge base. So what we did here from the solution architecture point of view, we just add a new layer, authorization layer, between our documents and AI. So in this section, I show you use cases where Sitecore role-based access control fails. And I think you're probably wondering why I showed you the demo in Sitecore XP. And I hope you have already guessed why. Because implementing the same in Sitecore AI is very, very complex task. Sitecore AI is a SaaS platform. It doesn't have any analogs of enable security check. It even doesn't have content search. We have Sitecore search that also is SaaS service. And for us, for developers, it's not extensible like content searcher or something. We do not implement the same that we have inside Core XP. Even if we try to use authoring and managing KPI, use GraphQL queries to read security fields of your items, it doesn't make a sense because nobody configured security for every single item, every single row. And because of Sitecore 3 is deeply hierarchical, roles are inherited between each other. It's very, very complex to determine what kind of access we have for current item. So, and this is a list. So why role-based access control fails when it comes to Sitecore AI. As I said, hierarchy is invisible because Sitecore content tree deeply hierarchical and role-based access control in Sitecore AI cannot express parent-child inheritance naturally. The same counts for roles. Even if we see that for this particular item, some of roles are configured with some permissions, we do not have any information about descent and extend roles. The next one, that AI cannot inherit user context. So AI do not understand who asked this question. And every single user will give the same results because out of the box, AI do not know what is the difference between users. So the next one is role exposure. For example, especially if you work for a government and someone come to you and say, buddy, I need access to some couple of new items. Could you please provide me because my colleague is ill today? No, it doesn't work in governments. So IT team need to create a new role where that will have all existing role with some new permissions. And every ticket like this is a ticket to support. The same, for example, if you have new agency that need access to your Sitecore, you also need to create a couple of roles to cover all the needs for this agency. And sometimes you even need to refactor your existing roles, rebuild some inheritance between them and so on. So not very flexible. And the last two ones, it's very tricky. So delegation is not possible. For example, I am a user and I want to delegate my access to the chatbot that I use. It's not possible because so from the things that we have, it's just not realizable. And also about temporary access. Sometimes we have a campaigns that goes live, for example, for 3 days. And we need to have access to this content for chatbot for this context window, no, for these 3 days. And to do it, we need to configure permissions, and after 2 days, we need to remove it. So let's have a quick overview about existing access control types. A long time ago in the past, we have something called access control list. So say you have document number 1, 2, 3, and you have a long list of people who can read this document. The same way, you have a long list of people who can write this document. Of course, not the most scalable version, obviously. This changed to role-based access control, exactly as we have right now inside core security. Also, as I said, it's not very scalable version if you need to have different access control for different AI agents, for multiple AI agents. So next one is attribute-based access control. So how it works? For example, say you have you need to check if you have right access to the some document. And system on the permission check time checks all of your attributes like your username, email, location, IP address, and so on. So you have faced this attribution-based access control. For example, if you log into your Google account from your device and your location, you have this pop-up with permission checks that you need to approve. And the last one is a relationship-based access control. It was very, very popularized by Google in last 6 years. So long story short, in role-based access control, we ask a question, what roles does this user have? In relationship-based access control, we ask a question, what is the relationship between this subject and this resource? The same data, but different mental model. Instead of roles, we use direct relationships. Yeah, and here is a turning point in our presentation. We switch from roles to relationships. And let me show you one more demo, how Google authorization, for example, works nowadays. So let's say you create a new Google document, copy the link of this document, and you need to send this link to your friend that have Gmail account. You type the text and pass this link to the message body. And when you click the send button, you will see this pop-up that says that, bro, maybe you forgot to add permissions to your friend. And you will see this pop-up only if really this guy doesn't have permissions to a document. And if you think about it, it's actually look like a magic, because Gmail and Google Docs are completely two different applications. But they have one single centralized authorization check that happens between all of Google applications. How does it happen? In 2019, Google released a white paper called Google Zanzibar. So I suggest to read you if you like geeky things like distributed systems. It's only 14 pages long in plain English, so easy to follow. So Zanzibar is the name of the internal Google authorization system. And they said that they can cover more than 10 million requests per second. And it was 6 years ago. But from us, from the point of view of developers, it's just an API where you can ask a question like, does the subject have permissions to access this resource? And you will get an answer, yes or no. And this is exact how relationship-based access control works. So let's show what is relationship-based access control in a very simple example. So let's say we have a user Bob that can edit websites. So we have a relationship between user Bob and demo website. The same way, for example, our website contains some multiple pages, and there is also a relationship between website demo and some particular page. But also by transitive property, there is also a relationship between user and this page item. So let's say we have users, we have resources, we have relationship between them, but how we tell it to the system that this relationship exists or not. And this is called relationship tuple. That's the way which we defined when a relationship is created, deleted, or updated. It looks like this, a simply viewed string. It's easy to read from the right to left, like a user Bob is editor of website demo. Website demo contains each one. And these relationship tuples are very flexible because not only object can relate to other object, but also object can relate to other object relationships or relationship to relationship. And for example, a group security is a direct member of a group engineering, so we can implement inheritance here. Or role editor is a direct member of role viewer. But what are really doing? What really happened here? In reality, we are building directed acyclic graph. So the idea is when you have all of the data, you create it directly a cyclic graph where each object, like resources, users, and relationship, as a node not of this graph. So here is an example of very simplified example of how Google Documents work in reality. So, and again, this is a very flexible system because let's say we have a new requirement like add new feature for adding new organization to our existing security. And it's very easy to do. What we need just to add new organization relationship, add a new node as a subject, for example, Acme brand. We can even add new permission like administrator that can be inherited for the right permission and so on. And it's really very easy to scale. You don't need to make any change to your existing graph. And so let's have an example how permission check works. So say John want to read document. So what happens behind the scene? The system try to find unidirectional way from the document to the user via read permission. And as you can see on the green nodes, yes, we have this unidirectional way, like some document, read, write, and jump. And for example, another example, just say Alice try to write document. And as you can see, there is no direct way between some document and Alice via write node. We can navigate from the some document to write, but no way to go to the Alice from write. So anytimes when you see in your Google documents that you don't have permissions, that's exactly what happens behind the scene. So if you want to implement the same in our solutions, we need to choose what kind of implementations we already have and we can use it. So there are four most popular implementation of Google Zanzibar and relationship-based access control. There are SpiceDB, Permify, OpenFGA, and ORI. All of them are open source on GitHub. So for our solution, we use SpiceDB because it's most popular. So as I said, it's a open source implementation of Google Zanzibar, and it has many contributors from all of these companies, including Netflix, Google, Red Hat, and so on. So SpiceDB is a highly parallel database that is used for authorization queries. It supports gRPC streaming for communication and also HTTP API service. It was written in Go language, and it's like a binary that you can run whenever you want. On your local PC, on your service on premise, it can be easy run in Dockers. You can deploy it to Kubernetes, to Azure services, or wherever you want. So these services support some features. The first one is a read and write your data schema. Of course, you need to have data schema before work. Then you can use all of the create, read, update, delete operations for your relationships. And you can, of course, check permissions if the subject have access to this object or not. There are also two operations like lookup subject and lookup resources. So, for example, you can ask, give me please all of the documents that this particular user can read or can write, and you will get a list of users that have access to this document. And the opposite way, you can ask the same for the document. For example, give me the list of users who have read access to this particular item. So all of this implementation of SpaceDB have their one specific domain language. So it's pretty simple, but anyway, it takes a little time before you can adapt for it. So this example how it looks. So just say we have an object user, we have a object agent, and this agent can be delegated from the user. We also optionally can set up expiration for the relationship. For example, we can say, so just provide the agent the same relationship that they have, but only for 1 day, for 3 days, or for months, and so on. And yeah, for document, you can see we create a relationship who can read and can write this document. You can use any combinations of binary logic like or, and, intersections, and so on. So, and before my demo, let's just have a quick comparison between role-based access control and relationship-based access control when we talk about AI agents. So if you have a new brand or a new agency, in role-based access control, it's required to create many roles. In ReBAC that I showed you before, you need just create a couple of relationships between nodes. So do you need temporary access? In role-based access control, you need to manually add these permissions and then remove these permissions. In the relationship-based access control, it works naturally. Uh, If you need to delegate your permissions to AI agents, it's impossible in role-based access control, but it works in relationship-based. Also, you can create any attribute-based access control. For example, we can create a function like access to the resources only during working hours, and it known as KVIT in relationship-based access control, and work out of the box. And you can also play with permissions wherever you want. In Sitecore role-based access control, you know that, for example, you have hundreds of roles, and one of these roles have denied access, you will have denied access. It's a rule. But in relationship-based access control, you can combine this binary language or binary logic wherever you want. So, and how authorization layer works in practice. So let's say example, like employee ask AI assistant, what is our revenue for first quarter? And without any authorization layer, AI search all documents that it have access to. Of course, it can return some confidential informations. It doesn't have no any good audit for this, and of course, it complies violation risks. With authorization layer, we can anytime check the user's permissions for these documents and return only authorized data. If we work with relationship-based access control implementations like SpiceDB, it has audit log where every check, every permission change is logged and its compliance maintained. And let's go to the demo. But if you need source code of my demo, you can scan this QR code and you see. Could you please switch to the demo? Yeah, thank you. So for this demo, I created a Sitecore Marketplace application where we have 3 different AI agents. And we want to control different permissions for these AI agents for different content. It can work on the page builder level, but for the demo, I think it will be more visible if you use it in a full screen mode. Yeah. So we have 3 of our page items. We can switch between different websites, between different languages. And when we navigate for any particular page, we can see and check access that user can do with this item and what kind of access are enabled for every single AI agent. So first we need to somehow configure how we sync between these permissions that we want to apply to our AI agents and SpiceDB. So first of all, we need a definition scheme in SpiceDB that will be used for our solution. So here we have user, we have agent that can be delegated from the user with optional expiration time. We have a content type, it's like page templates. We have a language. All of them has the same relationship in permissions, just read permissions and write permissions. But you can see we also have attribute-based, like we want write access only in working hours. The same way we have a website where we can configure our permissions for every single website. And also we have a document that is a representation of our Sitecore item. And as you can see, we have a relationship like of type, some specific type, document for some particular website, document for some particular language. And we don't need to configure permission to every single item because we can create the permissions like if AI can process, if this content type is accessible for to write, this language is accessible to write, and this website is accessible to write, and so on. So next we need configure it somehow in Sitecore. For this demo, I just created some settings for my marketplace application where we can define, first of all, we need to have agent name, and we can define content types that particular AI agents can read, can write, and also languages that it have access to. So as you can see here, for the Blueprint website, we have all of allowed access. And if you scroll down to the privacy page, we don't have access control for all of this because this is a legal content type, but we don't have it in our configuration. So let's say we navigate to the reviewer agent and add a legal content type for a reviewer agent. And when we refresh the page and scroll down to our privacy item, it should be accessible for reviewer agent only. Yeah, and as you can see, it's accessible. So let me show you quickly how our AI agent looks. So for example, review is just a SEO review of item. It doesn't need any write permissions. It's just read your content, look into HTML for some SEO problems. It's not bad for demo, 50%. Yeah. So the same way we can configure languages. For example, as you can see, reviewer agent has access to French language, and Markdown and translator have access to Russian version. So if we switch to the French, you can see that only reviewer agent have access to execute some actions here. If you go to the Russian, we will see that it can be only translate or Markdown. For translation, it's a simple translation about the same that Sitecore has out of the box. Just iterate your rich text and single and text items and translate it into context language. It's a little bit slow. Yeah, you can see content in translates into Russian. So in the last one is the Markdown, the same that I said before. You can render your HTML into the plain text. That is very useful for LLMs TXT or for any AI agents. So, but of course, these settings are not so flexible, so we can define it only on the global level. But it's not true. We can define the same on the item level, for example, on the website level. So as you can see right now, we have read access for the AI agent's rewriter and write permissions to the translator and markdown. Let's remove markdown permissions for the blueprint website. Refresh the page. And you could see that markdown is not accessible anymore. The same way, we can do the same on the item level. And for example, let's navigate to the About Us page and allow access to this one particular page. And right now on the About Us page, you will see that it's accessible for Markdown. Yeah. So the next that I want to show you, it's delegation permissions with some time to life. For this demo, I create a relationship that will be only valid during 1 minute. So for example, for a home page, I need permissions to my Markdown AI agent in only 1 minute. Of course, in real projects, this request should be navigated to a security team that can approve it or decline. But for demo, we just do it. And yeah, as you can see, Markdown right now is accessible for a home page. I will refresh it in 1 minute and it will yellow. Why 1 minute is go? So I also want to show you that all of this works in real time. So we can, for every single page navigation, we always check the permissions for users, for agents, if they have or not permissions. The same we have in our database. As you can see, we are working with our database with gRPC streaming, and all of the check permissions happens in real time here. Also, you can see that there is garbage collection. And for example, if you have a relationship with time to life, like expiration, you need to wait until this garbage collection is running to delete all of your expired permissions. But anyway, in the real time, if garbage collection is not running, you are not accessible to this document. Garbage collection just removed relationship to clear your graph. So come back and refresh the page. So right now, Markdown should be yellow because 1 minute is expired. Yeah, as you can see, Markdown is level. And one more killer feature, as I already shown, we have a CAVIT, attribute-based access control, where we see that working permissions are only available during working hours. And let's change our system time to something that is not working. I highly not recommend to do it in your real solutions because it's unpredictable. For example, it's 6 p.m. So as you can see, right now it's 6 a.m. and you can see all of these are red, but this markdown is green. Can you guess why it's green? Because a few minutes ago we have created a relationship with expiration, but this expiration right now it's in the future. Garbage collection is running about 1 in 5-10 minutes or any interval that you can configure. But right now we shift down to the past on the 12 hours. But permission has expire in the future. So, and that's almost all that I wanted to show you. You can also play with this SpiceDB. They have open house playground where you can play with your schemas, test your relationships. You can see visualization of all of your graphs, how permission works. You can use tools like SpiceDB Lens when you can manage your schema. You can use many features like lookup resources. You can test all of you have this visual interface. So can we please switch back to the presentation? Yeah, and that's all. Thank you for your attention.